Will you pray for me? Lord, may the words of my lips and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, because you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. I hate this little light of mine. I hate it. Or at least I used to. You know, it's always so embarrassing. We try so hard, but we're a room full of white people, and we just can't groove the way some other people can groove. And somebody always tries so hard to start the clapping, and the clapping never works. And some people are on 1 and 3, and some people are on 2 and 4. And by the way, it's a Sunday school song. Why are grown-ups singing it in church? It has always driven me nuts. And it's always been vaguely embarrassing when in a worship service that's supposed to be full of dignity and beauty, we bust that one out. I've hated this little light of mine for a long time. Until one day, the evening of September 11th, 2001, when I was in seminary in Upper Manhattan, and you know what happened that morning. And we felt like we had to do something. We were a bunch of do-gooders, right? All in seminary. We all felt like we ought to be making this right. Something had gone so wrong, and we felt like it was our job. We were called to make it right if we could. We had no idea what we were going to do. But we gathered in the quad of our seminary, and we all had backpacks full of water and gauze and first aid kits. We had them packed as full as we could get them. And we had collars on. It's amazing what a clerical collar will let you get through, what kinds of barriers they'll open for you if you had it on. And we were like 30 people all with collars on. Some of us have never worn them since, but we did that day. And we got on the subway and we went as far as we could before it stopped at 14th Street. And we came up out of the subway. And behind us, north, the lights were on. Straight ahead of us, it was dark. The sun was just going down. And it was getting dimmer and dimmer. You saw the news footage of what it was like. We were still way, way far away from ground zero, but the streets were empty. There were those police barriers, those sawhorses that they put up right in front of us, but no one was around, and we were all 21. So we knocked the barriers aside and we went through. And we started walking, and there was dust everywhere, and it was getting darker and darker, and papers were blowing by right up the street. It was like a movie. And we walked, and we didn't see anyone. We didn't find anything to do. We were sure that there was someone that we were going to be able to help, and there was nothing. So we walked all the way from the east side to the west side, and when we got to the river, and it was just about full dark, we stopped. We hadn't accomplished anything. And it was time for some of us to go, and we had to go in different directions. We weren't going to travel back the way we had come. We felt like we should mark the moment somehow, and so we got in a circle, and we held hands, and we decided to sing. But we were from all different Christian traditions, a million different churches, and we didn't all know the same songs, but there was one song we all knew. And don't you know what it was? And I thought, oh God, this is what we're going to fling in the face of tragedy. This, of all songs, this is the song that we are going to sing over the graves of thousands of people. Are you kidding me? Like summer camp? Here in Lower Manhattan on September 11th, 2001, that's what we're going to sing. But we did. We sang it so slowly. Not fast, not happy clappy, not bouncy. We sang it so slowly. And it hurt to sing it. And I was looking down at my feet, my shoulders hunched up around my ears, embarrassed by what we were doing. And then I looked up, and here's what I saw. A crowd had gathered around us, 2 and 3 people deep, just staring at us, singing this dumb song, just listening as we sang it. And most of them, well over half, maybe almost all of them, they were holding cell phones up. I don't know who they had called. I don't know if it was somebody up on 18th Street or their parents' home in San Francisco or halfway around the world. I don't know who was on the other end, but they had called somebody and they were holding their phones up for us to sing. And all those phones were glowing in this big circle, 2 and 3 deep around us. And the glow from the phones, this was before smartphones, this was before iPhones, so it wasn't very bright, the glow on those old flip phones, but it illuminated the faces of everyone across the circle from them, and they just held them up. And they listened while we went through verse after verse after verse. I don't remember how we stopped. I don't remember going home, but I remember that glowing circle around us that we had called forth out of the dark by singing that song. Here's the thing about light. Our bodies need it. We were built for it. Our eyes evolved for it. Those rods and those cones in there, you can get through the world without being able to see. You can get through the world without light, but our bodies were built for it. Our bodies were built to take in that vitamin D from the sunlight, and when we live too much in the shadows, too long in the dark, our bodies begin to break down. Here's the thing about salt. Jesus said we're light. He also said we're salt. We need salt even more than we need light. Your body cannot survive without it. In this modern time, you hear all about getting too much salt all the time. That's a first world problem. That's a princess problem, having too much salt in your diet. For most of the world, all the way down through history, getting enough salt was always a problem. They would lick it off the ground like the animals in the old days if they didn't have enough. Words like salary. Your salary is the amount that in the Roman legions they paid you, the extra money they paid you just to be able to buy salt. Salad is vegetables that you put salt on, because most of the time we were vegetarians in the old days. It was hard to catch or raise meat, so we ate a lot more vegetables, and we needed salt on our vegetables, and so they called that a salad. The Israelites made a covenant with God by sprinkling salt on the food they ate. You know what Gandhi did around salt in India. You know about those salt taxes. It goes on and on and on. When they decided the world needed iodine and they had to figure out how to give it to them, they said, what's the one thing that everybody everywhere has to eat to survive? So we have iodized salt. That's how they're saving people in the developing world still. Salt. We evolved for it. It's one of the 5 tastes. You've heard about the 5 tastes that your tongue can taste, right? And that's why chips taste so good. We're built to love salt, to eat as much of it as we can find when we get it. We evolved for it. Our bodies long for it, like they long for the light. They long for that salt. And that's what Jesus said that we are to be to the world. We should be what the world is longing for. What the world was built for. That light, it shines out and it makes everything around it more beautiful, easier to see, easier to navigate. That salt, you put it in food and it has its own taste, but more to the point, it makes all the other tastes richer, deeper, more delightful. When you shine a light out, here's the thing. Jesus talks about being put up on a light stand, right? He says you should shine like a light on a light stand. And people wonder, well, why do I want to climb up? Why would I put myself on a pedestal? But here's the thing. When you're shining a bright light out, they can't see you. They can't look at you. If your light is bright enough, all they can do is look at everything else. When you're shining that light as brightly as you can, you make everything else easier to see and yourself impossible to notice. Here's the thing about salt. You put salt in food and it disappears into that food. It makes everything richer, better tasting, more delightful, but you can't see it there unless you make such a big deal of it that you can see it piled up on top. Jesus said you should be like that light that enlightens everything around that can't be seen itself. You should be like that salt that dissolves into the world around you and makes it so savory and delicious. The world needs it, he says. The world longs for it. We evolved for it. So who are you to withhold it? Who are you to decide that you can't sprinkle that into the world, that you can't shine that into the world? Who are you to say, I'm not going to sing that stupid song? Who are you to say that I'm too cool to tell people what I know about God? Who are you to say it's going to be so embarrassing if we start singing like that in front of the world, if we start telling the world what we believe, what I know about God? Who are you to refuse a world that needs it. I used to hate this little light of mine. Now it's one of my favorites. Say amen.